But then in 1979, sort of after Shockley's star has fallen pretty far from the sky, we kind of get a glimmer of the future. There's a guy named Robert Graham who made bank off of making plastic lenses for eyeglasses, and he opens up a sperm bank. This he called the Repository for Germinal Choice. Now, a little background on Graham, and he is classic. Like, we actually see a lot of parallels in some stuff we've covered on this show. So he'd been involved in a lot of stupid fucking schemes before. At one point in the early 1970s, he instructed the vice president of his company, which was called Armorlight, not... I know you Irish people out there, you're like, oh, Armorlight. Oh, I can, blast one of those in a town square. No, Armorlight. He instructs the vice president of this company that he owns to buy a private island that he could found a nation on. We like the sound of that, don't we? So he spends years designing this like ultra-scientific, data-driven sewer system, food processing, storage, all this kind of stuff. And he made this one thing about his project super clear. Yes, he wanted to start a nation, but he wanted to be a center for the world scientists to get together to do high-tech research. Remind you of anybody?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are probably like, wait, doesn't that sound like Jeffrey Epstein? Yes, exactly. It sounds like Jeffrey Epstein.
Certainly
we've
does.
actually talked about the Repository of Germinal Choice back when we covered some of Epstein's predilections with this stuff, which we'll get into, again, to remind you. But it is not, like you're saying, it's not that uncommon among this milieu. Exactly.
It's strange. These guys do believe they are blessed with sort of holy balls. But, like many mercurial sort of genius types like him, his ideas fell apart, and he kind of flits through thing to thing. He was also an author. He wrote a book called The Future of Man in 1970, which I have flipped through. It can basically be summed up by this excerpt.
Although the contributions of the intelligent, parentheses, control of disease, efficient food production, and a multitude of inventions, permit great masses of the less intelligent to survive, when these masses gain sufficient preponderance, they no longer remain part of a united people. Instead, they choose class war. They are led to turn on the haves of their own people and liquidate them by the millions. The killing includes not only those who have property, but those who have perceptive minds. Intelligence has come to have extinction potential instead of survival value. The most dangerous game.
Exactly.
It's Maoism.
Yeah, I know. That's the funny thing about this, and that's sort of a subtext you see in a lot of this stuff, is that the danger in like sort of these like elite, smart, and the subtext also, white people not having enough babies, is that the great unwashed masses will have babies, and that those babies will grow up to become communist, essentially,
right.
Or whatever word they would use for it now, although Elon Musk is still calling them communists. And of course, as we know, the countryside does surround the city, encroach on these fucking smart people, and kill them because their contribution. It's like Idiocracy.
Yes.
Which is really, I mean, that movie changed a lot of guys' lives in Silicon Valley. So he's like, I'm going to fix this by hooking up smart women with smart men's sperm. Let me actually correct that real quick. Smart white women with smart white men's sperm. Yeah. So he actually founds his little sperm bank in his basement in 1980.
Which, by the way...
Okay, I'm not jizzing in a basement.
Listen to this.
Yeah.
Ladies, look, you don't need a man. Okay. It's modern times.
You're good.
Don't go to a sperm bank that's in someone's basement.
Hey, you want a smart kid?
Here's a little TrueAnon tip. Don't go to the sperm bank if it's in a guy's basement.
Sweetheart, you have such intelligent eyes. Do you want to come to my basement?
Sweetheart, you're so white.
You're so fucking white. Oh my God, you're so fucking white and hot and smart. Like, do you want to just come to my basement and fucking get some Nobel Prize sperm? Because that was the big selling point for the Repository of Germinal Choice. It had the testicular offal of several Nobel Prize winners. Hey, that's what it is. Of several Nobel Prize winners. And also,
allegedly.
alleged by
Once it's
them.
in a little thing, it's like, who knows?
Exactly. I mean, this is too far of digression. I know how people get mad at us, but I got to tell you, I've told this story in the podcast before. Graceland 2, no longer existing, but I believe the guy killed somebody. In Memphis, the guy claimed to have a pillow with Elvis's on it. And like, that kind of could be anybody's. Anyways, the selling point for the repository of germinal choice is that they're going to hook up smart women with smart men. So they're advertising in Mensa towards women, and then Graham was going on to smart guys he knew or had connections to. Unfortunately, by the 1980s, eugenics had long been out of vogue. So the ideas, of course, of eugenics, kind of too big of a topic fully for the history of to get into this episode. I think a lot of people generally know the contours of it. But I got to tell you, the Nazis, just like the goose step and the Roman salute, and the swastika, and the name Adolf, and the name Hitler, and the name Goebbels, they really kind of put an end to that.
Yeah.
Right? Like that. Eugenics were immensely popular.
Nobody's named Goebbels anymore.
Exactly. Well, I got a buddy, Jose Goebbels, and it's like, okay, cool. I just have to call him Jose. I can't even just call him by his last. Okay. But anyways, so the Nazis, of course, big believers in eugenics, as were really every Western country. Eugenics were huge among really all swaths of society, but especially among the elite, obviously. The Nazis had several eugenics programs. Of course, the most famous of those was the Lebensborn program. That gave birth to, I believe, someone from ABBA.
I believe that's true, yes.
Yes. One of the people from ABBA was born in one of those. But after World War II and the Holocaust and all that, people were like, maybe this racial hygiene thing, it's got some bad connotations.
Yeah,
to it.
I want to just pause for a second because you said hygiene, and I think that's a good, for just a good way to think about, not a good way to think about eugenics, but 20th century, late 19th century, early 20th century eugenics really was about like purifying, right,
Yes.
in the classic Nazi way, purifying genetic population
Yeah.
of what they would say would be unwanted traits.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So it was like a great cleansing, as they would call it.
Yes.
Not my words.
I
their words.
believe the term eugenics was actually coined by Charles Darwin's half cousin.
It was.
So there's a lot of once it was, you can sort of see the evolution. By the way, it's a lie. Those things all just were born that way.
Yeah, it's
Chicken or the egg? I'm sorry, I'm not answering
Yeah,
that.
it was 7 days. Everyone knows that.
Everyone knows 7 days. But these ideas had sort of by the 1980s gone out of vogue.
Yeah.
And so while Graham kind of tried to hide some of the nature of the sperm bank, he could unfortunately not help but run his mouth. And then it was found out that every single of the many donors he claimed that were in there was white, and that every single person that they accepted to have a baby with one of those donors was also white. The bank received some negative publicity.
Yeah, I would think.
Did not help that the only Nobel Prize winner to come forward to say that his semen was in there was famously racist and eugenicist Nobel Prize winner William Shockley.
Oh my God. Was it only his?
Nobody else ever came forward. So he's, I think, the only confirmed comer that we have in there. About 230 babies, including myself, were born from this sperm bank. The place, I think, closed, I think in the maybe 90s. I'm not exactly sure. Who knows?
By the way, that's too late for a place like that to close.
I mean, I'm like, do you got to re-up it? Or is it like frozen?
No.
You got to go back every few days or something? Refractory.